Around evening on Thursday, we got some news from social media that would have been dismissed as fake had it not come from the horse's mouth. Actor Shushmita Sen took to social media and announced that she had suffered from a heart attack a couple of days ago. Our first reaction was, it's impossible. Sushmita Sen is 47 years old. She's a fitness freak. Her yoga and exercise videos are followed by thousands of women in the country. Her lifestyle has always been held up as ideal. How then did Sushmita suffer from a heart attack? We will be discussing that question in detail on the show. But first, let me tell you what the actor wrote on Instagram. The post is there, but I don't think you can read it. So I'll just read it for you. I suffered a heart attack a couple of days ago. Angioplasty is done. Stent is in place. And most importantly, my cardiologist has reconfirmed I do have a big heart. That's what she wrote on Instagram. The good news is Shushmita Sen is doing well and recovering. We wish her speedy recovery. The bad news is people don't understand what went wrong. The traditional school of thought is that men are more prone to heart attacks, especially in the early stages of their lives. According to some studies, men are twice as likely to suffer a heart attack. Add to this Shushmita Sen's fitness-driven lifestyle and things simply don't add up. Now, we don't know the exact details of Ms. Sen's diagnosis, but in a broader sense, what is making heart attacks more common amongst women in India? Doctors point to the new stressful lifestyle, whether it's diabetes, obesity, stress, eating, or even smoking. These are all factors that increase the risk of heart attacks. And let me make one thing clear. The idea here is not to sit in judgment of new lifestyles. The idea is to understand the downside of the so-called new urban life, both for men and for women. Diabetes, for example, can increase the risk of heart attacks by 2 or 4 times. If you smoke a packet of cigarettes per day, it can double your risk of heart attack. If you vape, there is a 34% higher probability. The bottom line is, lifestyle is a major reason for these heart attacks amongst younger people. Today, younger women are more exposed to stressful jobs, deadlines, the bustle of urban life than in the last 2 decades. It's a desirable result in the overall scheme of gender equality. But as a society, we must then increase awareness about these issues. We should educate young women on what the worrying signs are, how they can mold their lifestyle, and how they can lead a much more healthier life. Dr. Ashok Seth is joining me on the broadcast. He's chairperson of the Fortis Escort Heart Institute, one of the best-known cardiologists in India. Dr. Seth, can you help me understand what explains Shushmita Sen's situation? She's 47 years old. We constantly see her videos on Instagram that tell us that she's in top shape, that she's fit as a fiddle, because her exercise regimen seems to suggest as much. Now, if you're fit, if you're eating healthy, how can you have a heart attack?
So Shreya, let's first say that we wish a very rapid recovery, and whatever we talk today is a generalization of heart disease amongst women. It's very important to point out that women should be aware that heart disease and heart attacks are the leading #1 cause of death in women. 1 in 5 women actually die of a heart attack. So we should not ignore the fact that it's only a men's disease. It's clearly a women's disease as well. Now, more recently, what's been happening is that the increase in heart attacks has resulted in the younger people in more than 20%, 30% increase of heart attacks in younger people. And while you really said that we attribute it to lifestyle, and there's no doubt high blood pressure, diabetes, smoking, obesity, the commonly known risk factors are on the rise in both sexes, men and women, we also need to understand that just doing exercises is not a 100% guaranteed methodology to prevent heart attacks if there are other risk factors which are unnoticed. And by the way, more recently, pollution and COVID has added to the risk of the heart attack. And we should not forget this aspect as well. And that's why sometimes what you're seeing at the moment is well recognized by data that, again, there's been a 30% increase in heart attacks in the young, more related to the recent COVID pandemic. Now, when we come to an analysis of the risk factors, the way we actually prevent ourselves, and we're not again specifying this for any individual, is that the hidden risk, hypertension, which is high blood pressure, diabetes, are hidden risk factors. Unless examined, there are three important risk factors which don't come to the fore. One is a family history of having heart attacks in either parents less than age 60 or siblings, which is a very important factor. Added to that is blood pressure, which only comes to front if there is a checkup, and diabetes or blood sugar, which is only comes to fore if it's tested. Again, cholesterol is an important risk factor, which actually only comes to fore if tested. So when we talk about patients or people at young age having heart attacks suddenly, even though they were exercising, we still do not understand they may have had a spectrum of risk factors which actually multiply. For example, there's a diabetic who doesn't know that he's a diabetic and he starts smoking. He multiplies his risk factor or her risk factor by 6 times. Add on to that, it's hypertension. The multiplication goes up to 15 times having a chances of a heart attack, even though there is exercise in the schedule. So health, just plain exercise, is not heart health. Bodybuilding and gymming and strenuous exercise is not a heart health. It's a combination of risk factors that we actually have to decrease. And we got to be more aware, whether men or women, that young age, heart attacks at young age is actually on the increase. And we have to be careful of understanding all risk factors, analyzing them, and protecting ourselves from heart attacks and heart disease.
But Dr. Seth, you tell me that stop thinking of heart attacks or heart problems as majorly a men's issue and not a women's issue. And you're putting out data to tell us that many more women suffer from heart attacks than they did probably 20 years ago. But wasn't it traditional knowledge that told us that if a woman is in her reproductive age cycle, her heart is protected? She's lucky because that's what protects her heart.
That's been the change of the incidence of heart attacks in women. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we felt they were protected by their hormones. Yet the changes in lifestyle, which include stress, which include hypertension, which also include smoking in many women, which also include obesity and other risk factors that we commonly talk about. And by the way, contraceptive pill, which is an increase in use, again, in presence of risk factors, including clotting tendency of blood. Postmenopausal treatment with hormones is another risk factor which comes in. These are a combination of risk factors which weren't seen so commonly before, which are now more often seen in women. And that's why it's overtaken the protective mechanisms of hormones, we used to call it. They're still lesser at risk as compared to men, but it still becomes the first and the most foremost cause for death in women as well. And that's been the changes over the last 20 years, unfortunately. There's also one more point.
Dr. Seth, my last question to you before I let you go. Yeah, okay, go ahead, sir, make it.
There was one more point. It's been well recognized that sometimes the symptoms of heart attack in women are not typical. And that actually delays the time for seeking help or for seeking treatment. This has been well recognized. And that is why there's been an increase in deaths in women because of they're being late in getting help. For example, while we say typical symptoms of heart attack can be chest discomfort, squeezing, severe, going down the arms, women sometimes, and not uncommonly, can present with just tiredness, exhaustion, sweating, nausea, feeling uncomfortable, feeling unwell, which often goes unnoticed, and it's only later on over a few hours that a realization occurs that this was actually a heart attack. So I think those are also very important points where women may tend to ignore the symptoms because they're not typical and seek help later than others.
Doctor, do stay with us because there's some more information I want to put out for our viewers, and then we have Luke joining us as well. Now, another thing that confuses a lot of people is the difference between a heart attack and a cardiac arrest. So I just want to put out some information there. A lot of people use the two interchangeably, but in reality, there are two different things. A heart attack occurs when a coronary artery is blocked, meaning blood is not able to reach the heart. If this condition is not treated, the heart could eventually die because there is not enough oxygen. The treatment usually involves opening this blocked artery, either with an angioplasty, like the one that Sushmita Sen has got, or stenting. She's also got a stent. Now let's talk about cardiac arrests. This condition occurs when your heart simply stops beating. It stops pumping blood to your body. You may lose your consciousness and you may also stop breathing. If left untreated, a cardiac arrest can kill you. So in simple words, a heart attack is when the blood does not reach your heart. A cardiac arrest is when the heart simply stops beating. Sometimes a heart attack can trigger an irregular heart rhythm and lead to a cardiac arrest. But other than that, these are two different conditions. But how do you identify the symptoms? I'll put that question to my guests because I think my guests are the ones who are the best suited to answer that question. But Luke Coutinho, thank you very much for joining us here on the broadcast. Luke is a lifestyle guru. All of you know him, so I don't think I need to introduce you to him. Luke, thank you very much for your time. What are they doing wrong? I mean, one would have looked at Shushmita Sen and said, here is someone who's doing everything right. She's 47. She regularly exercises. There is not an ounce of fat on her body. She's a mindful eater. Technically, there was absolutely no reason for her to have this heart attack.
Right. Thanks for having me here. So I don't want to comment my answer on Sushmita Sen. I want to talk in general why this happens to women or men like her who have absolutely fit lives and they're doing everything. See, I think Dr. Ashok covered a lot of topics right now. Again, it's multifactorial. It's really multifactorial. Today, we look at fitness, and that's why as a country, we need to change the definition of fit. Just because we may have a size 0 figure, no fat on the body, or a six-pack, or we work out regularly, doesn't mean we're fit. The definition of fitness is also inclusive of our emotional health and our quality of sleep. Today, a lot of fit people who die, young, middle-aged, they die on the treadmill, they die after a marathon. A lot of them have one commonality that has been studied for the longest time, which is sleep deprivation. We know medically documented science shows us the impact of sleep deprivation on heart function. And like Dr. Ashok said, I was very happy to see the vaping stats that the Daily Mirror's posted of 38%. We don't understand today a lot of the youth are vaping. A lot of people are vaping, and you don't necessarily have to know about this. We know in 2017, JAMA Cardiology wrote a beautiful published article on how vaping is directly connected with irregular heart rhythm. And it gets worse. This irregular heart rhythm can cause immediate cardiac arrest in people who have never had heart disease before or who have heart disease. So, it's always good to correlate the data. What's increasing in our country? Sleep deprivation. Number 2, vaping, smoking, sedentary lifestyles, overactive lifestyles. A lot of people overtrain to keep a fit body, but they don't recover enough. They don't have enough of rest and sleep, which again puts an impact on the heart. The fourth most important point, and again, I replied that my answer is not based on Sushmita Sen. I'm talking as a general concept of people dying, is the misuse of anabolic steroids. We know scientifically the misuse of anabolic steroids, which is very, very unregulated in our country. People can buy it and use it without the right advice. Increases irregular heart rhythm, palpitations, a heartbeat that can go up to 200. And a lot of people today, young people, have diabetes. Like Dr. Ashok said, some of them have high blood pressure, which is silent. They don't even know. And the combination of all of this together can lead to a cardiac arrest or even a heart attack. Now, the word that I want to introduce today to all our audience is angiogenesis. Whenever you have a heart attack, okay, you have a problem of insufficient angiogenesis. That means your blood vessels do not have the ability to grow new capillaries, which would either bypass a clogged artery. Now, this is again due to lifestyle. It's due to certain foods, deficiencies that we have, inflammation, which is uncontrolled in the body. So it's multifactorial. We can't just point a finger at one thing. There are all of these things that come together and explains why people are dying today. I would also like to throw in the COVID part. We know that people recovering from COVID have a mitochondrial dysfunction, very fatigued. A lot of these people, instead of resting, start to hit the gym, run very quickly on treadmills and lift heavy weights. When you have mitochondrial dysfunction, that is going to put a direct impact on your heart. So there are all of these little lifestyle things that we need to see. And of course, a lot of people have not been screened to even know if they have a bad cholesterol buildup or plaque in their hearts. So I think early screening is also a necessary measure today across all age groups.
I want to look at the COVID link with data, and I want to know what we can do to protect our heart. But before that, I just quickly want to put out some statistics for our viewers who are joining us. Now, in the last couple of years, many celebrities have suffered heart attacks. A handful of them have also succumbed to the condition. Now, you may remember actor Amit Mistry. He died of a cardiac arrest in April 2021. Then there was television actor Siddharth Shukla. Another example, he died of a heart attack at the age of 40. He was considered a gym freak, and many experts debated whether his intense lifestyle was responsible for his death. Luke is saying it possibly was. Playback singer KK was another shocking death. He passed away at the age of 53 because of a heart attack. The singer was performing at a concert in Kolkata. Kannada actor Puneeth Rajkumar's death took all of us by shock. His fitness videos were the envy of actors and fitness freaks. So much so that many doctors wondered whether his brutal regime had something to do with his cardiac arrest. Then you had Raju Srivastav, you had Rajiv Kapoor, who's an actor, also television star, Siddhant Veer Suryavanshi, all part of that same list. They were all too young when they passed away. The average age of male heart attacks in India is 65 years, and for women it is 72 years. None of the people I've listed were anywhere close to that age. So the obvious question is, what went wrong? Can over-exercising really increase the likelihood of heart attacks? Let me tell you what a study conducted by the Mayo Clinic found. People who exercised above the national average were more likely to develop coronary artery calcification. It's called CAC, and it's considered a predictor of heart diseases. Other studies also found that extreme exercise can affect your heart rhythm and probably trigger heart problems. But what is the medical consensus on this? And more importantly, how much exercise is too much exercise? Luke, I think you are best placed to answer that question. Is intensive exercising, maniac exercising, pushing us towards a cardiac arrest or a heart attack? And how much is too much?
Absolutely. See, every individual is different. Now let's move and take an example of an athlete. Okay, an athlete does three things. They eat, they sleep, and they train. They eat, they sleep, they train. Their recovery is according to the intensity of the workout. Now move to a common layman like all of us, where we have jobs to do, flights to catch. So we work out intensely and we do not have the right amount of recovery. And moreover, we don't have the right amount of nutrition to support the kind of workouts that we're doing. There's a big gap right there. There's inflammation out of control right there. So it really, really depends on how much we need to exercise because everyone's different and what the goals of people are. But we can follow the basic symptoms of the body. Are we tired throughout after our workouts? Are we, not losing weight, but we're working out harder? We're feeling flabby in spite of working out. Are we getting irregular heart rhythms? Are we feeling brain fog in our head? Our behavior starts to change. There are normal body, symptoms that we start to get. Do I need more stimulants to get energy? A lot of people have this habit of taking coffee supplements before a workout. The whole point is a beautiful workout should be done on natural energy, on our own cellular energy. So if we need these caffeine supplements and mugs of coffee before a workout, we're already working out a fatigued body. Right there, we have a problem. So, every country and every body has a different kind of exercise. I believe the holistic way of workout should be cardiovascular, strength training, flexibility, mobility, breath work, recovery. All of these is what the human body needs. It's not about what we want as individuals. It's about what the human body needs, our bones, our organs, our tendons, our cartilage, our muscle. So I think we need a more holistic approach. But to answer your question, yes, intensive workouts can be a multifactorial contributor towards a heart attack.
It's impossible to talk about health trends and not to talk about COVID-19. Dr. Seth, I'd want you to come in here. Does the virus make us more prone to heart attacks? Now, right at the outset, I'm just going to say this. We are talking about uncharted medical territory here. 3 years is simply not enough time to draw conclusive links between a virus and heart attacks. But having said that, before I go to Dr. Seth, let's take a look at some of the important assessments that have been made so far. WHO's former chief scientist, Soumya Swaminathan, did confirm that there is a link between COVID and heart diseases. In fact, experts are saying that COVID affects the heart muscles. It also increases the probability of arteries or veins getting getting crazy and random, meaning there could be clotting and by extension and heart attack. COVID vaccines too have been linked to heart attacks. But Dr. Swaminathan had a warning for people looking to skip the jab because of heart risks. She says COVID-linked heart risk is 4 to 5 times higher than vaccine-linked risks. In simple words, vaccines appear to be the lesser evil right now. Dr. Said, come in here. There are two things that we have spoken about in the last 10 minutes or so. Luke has constantly spoken about fatigue. If fatigue is a symptom, almost everyone I know is fatigued. A. B, is there a link between COVID and heart attacks? I know there are enough studies to tell us that, but has it been established beyond doubt that a vaccine or a COVID infection in your body could be pushing your heart into some trouble?
Shreya, I'm going to actually certainly address that. But just for 30 seconds, I'll address also the exercise on heart and just say that heart healthy exercises has to be deferred from bodybuilding. We also know that heart healthy exercises means 150 minutes of brisk walking in a week, which actually equates to 30 minutes or 35 minutes of brisk walking 5 times a week. So we must remember that the rest is bodybuilding, that unfortunately the 5-4 risk factors which have arisen in the recent times has been stress, but also has been substance abuse, anabolic steroid abuse, especially those who build bodies. And finally, of course, the pollution, which is a known risk factor recent time for heart attacks, and finally, COVID. Now, coming to this COVID factor, I don't think it's ambiguous. It is fairly clear that COVID does affect heart, and it affects heart in multiple ways, which actually also includes creating stickiness of the blood, therefore precipitating clots in the arteries of the heart, leading to heart attacks, leading to strokes, leading to even clots in the lungs. Secondly, it also affects the heart muscle, causing the heart rate to become irregular, and sometimes even go so fast that it can be actually fatal. And finally, it actually affects the heart muscle by causing inflammation and decreasing its pumping efficiency, leading to heart failure. But are these symptoms, once affected by COVID, how long can these symptoms occur? Can heart be damaged for a much longer duration of time than just the passing phase of COVID? And sometimes people say, but my COVID was mild. But yes, the heart can actually be affected far more severely than just the mild cold and cough that one may actually have had. By the way, there's a large amount of prospective data analysis being done. Close to 150,000 people in the United States got followed up over a year. And you know how that analysis is systemic. Everybody was tracked over for a year and a half. The increase in heart attack rate was 3 times that of normal population after being struck by COVID. 4% of the people had some form of COVID-affected heart disorder over a period of a year than others who not had COVID. And when we look at the fact that practically everybody by this time has been affected by COVID, there is a tendency up to a year and a half for COVID to have affected the heart. So how do we actually differentiate between who has had a heart attack, who can actually have a serious problem even weeks or months from COVID? We clearly emphasize one fact, and that is, please do not ignore your symptom after COVID, however mild COVID it might have been. Any palpitations, any heart rate going fast, any symptom of a discomfort in the chest, breathlessness, palpitations, has to be considered and has not to be ignored. We have emphasized again and again that severe exercise during recovery from COVID is absolutely a no-no. That's the time when the heart is vulnerable. Even if we are not feeling breathless, but in the first 2 to 3 months, the heart has been vulnerable to inflammatory responses of the COVID or our immune reaction, and therefore build up to exercise. I've had loads of people who come to me, I used to run marathons. Am I ready to run marathon? It's only been a month since the COVID. And I said, no, take it easy, build yourself back gradually, start feeling yourself, get your heart back. Take 2 or 3 months before you actually go for anything like what you were doing before and grade yourself. You ask about vaccination versus COVID. We actually know the data also that vaccination does also cause really inflammation of the heart muscle. After all, again, it's an immunological reaction that we have to face, but not even 1/4. It is minuscule compared to what we talk about the side effects from COVID and heart disease itself. Vaccination is like 17 in a million of our population would even get affected. That is a rarity. While when you talk about 4% of the people getting a heart problem after COVID, you can understand that that is a huge population of people when you talk about that. So we're clear, it's not vaccination, it is the fact that there is an increase in death in younger people up to 20 to 30% in the last 2 or 3 years, which is in a major way related to COVID infection. And we've got to be careful and aware of this.
Therefore, my last question would be, what do we do? Look at the data. Around 10% of all sudden deaths in India are due to cardiac arrests. Nearly 30 lakh Indians die every year of stroke and heart attack. Cardiac arrests have killed 12 lakh youngsters in India every year. And if you look at the trajectory, it's even more worrying. In 2014, India reported 18,000 deaths from heart attacks. In 2018, that jumped to 25,000 deaths. And in 2021, again, there was a jump. So clearly, there's a problem in our country. We are often called the diabetes and heart disease capital of the world. Young people should be in the prime of their cardiovascular health, but they are suffering heart attacks. In 2021, more than 70% of all heart attacks and deaths related to it were in the age group of 30 to 60. In the last 2 decades, heart attack rates in the 20 to 30 age group have increased by 2% every year. So the simple and straightforward question is, what should we change? What are the do's and don'ts when it comes to heart diseases? Luke, I think you're best placed to answer that question. What do we do to protect our heart?
I think we need a change in lifestyle. It's a beautiful combination of great medicine and lifestyle. It can't always just be that you get sick and you go to a doctor. I think we as individuals have to take responsibility to invest in prevention and the right lifestyle. Everything revolves around our lifestyle. The doctors can prescribe medicines and do procedures, but if the patients don't change their lifestyle, we are stuck in chronic illness. And the numbers are only going to go higher and higher, given the fact that stress levels are increasing, work is increasing, everything's increasing, including sleep deprivation. That's a huge one. The impact of sleep deprivation and cardiac and heart disease is huge, and it's well documented and connected. So I think creating awareness around early screenings, not ignoring symptoms, like Dr. Ashok rightly pointed, a lot of patients that we have, they think they have acidity. And we're like, hey, listen, just go and get yourself checked out right now. And most of them were about to have a heart attack. So we can't assume awareness about the symptoms, early screenings, knowledge if your parents had heart disease, your grandparents, make sure you get screened. And I think it's always going to be the success of India is a beautiful combination of great medicine and great lifestyle, because that's how the human body works.
Luke, we'll leave it there. Dr. Seth, it was great to have you on the show. We've learned a lot from you today. Thank you very much for coming on the show. The idea of the show was triggered by Sushmita Sen's heart attack, but we know that there is a larger problem at hand beyond celebrity. So thank you very much for coming to Mirror Now and speaking to us.
Thank you. Bye.
On that note, I'm slipping into a very quick break. There's much more coming up on the other side. Do stay with us.